Welcome back to the Rockhounding podcast. Today we are going on a deep dive
Ooh, exciting.
into the world of fluorite. It's a mineral so vibrant, it's been dubbed the most colorful mineral in the world.
Yeah.
I think that nickname is well-deserved. What do you think?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, from those deep purples and greens
Yeah.
to just like those bright yellows and even clear specimens,
Wow.
there's a shade of fluorite out there, I think, for absolutely everyone.
Totally. And what I think is really cool is, we're not just going to admire the beauty. We're going to understand how those colors, like how do they come to be? Plus, we'll explore where you might be able to find fluorite yourself. Maybe even closer than you think. And we can't forget about the glow.
Oh,
We'll definitely talk about why some fluorite seems to light up under a UV light.
Yeah, it's really interesting because I think with fluorite, even though it's very visually stunning, I think its name actually hints at a more practical past. It comes from the Latin flue, meaning to flow.
Okay, so that's interesting. So how does flowing connect to this colorful rock? I don't
Yeah.
quite see the connection.
So I think long before it was a collector's item, fluorite was actually used in metal smelting.
Okay.
So it would be added to ores to help them melt more easily. It essentially would make the molten metal flow better, and that's how it gets its name.
Oh, interesting. So it's a mineral that's both beautiful and useful.
Yeah.
I like that. I have to ask, though, how does nature create those incredible colors?
Yeah.
It's not like there's someone down there with a paintbrush, right?
Yeah, no, not quite. It's all about the chemistry. So fluorite is formed in what are called hydrothermal veins. So imagine superheated water, like deep underground, flowing through cracks and crevices in the Earth's crust. This water is full of dissolved minerals, including calcium and fluoride, the building blocks of our star mineral.
Okay, so I'm picturing this hot, mineral-rich water flowing underground. What happens next?
So as this hot water starts to cool, the pressure decreases, and then the dissolved minerals, they start to crystallize.
Okay.
And here's where it gets really interesting. So tiny amounts of other elements, what we call trace elements, can actually get incorporated into the fluorite crystal structure as it's growing.
So these trace elements, they're like unexpected guests at the mineral party.
Exactly. And they're the reason for all that color variation. So depending on what trace elements are present and in what quantity, you get different colors. For example, yttrium can give you those gorgeous purples,
Oh, wow.
while cerium might create yellows and oranges.
So every piece of fluorite is like a unique snapshot of the exact conditions of where it formed millions of years ago. That's pretty amazing to think about. And speaking of where it forms, are there certain places in the world known for, like specific colors or types of fluorite?
Absolutely. And this is where understanding kind of the geology of a location can really help you predict what you might find.
Okay.
So for example, let's look at Illinois. It's famous for its beautiful purple and yellow fluorite, often found in cubic crystals. That's because the fluorite there formed in sedimentary rocks, which have a different mineral composition than, say, the igneous rocks that you might find in Colorado.
So the type of rock surrounding the fluorite, plays a role in its appearance. I'm starting to see how knowing a bit about geology can, really enhance the rockhounding experience.
Yeah.
And for anyone listening who's feeling inspired to learn more or connect with other rockhounds, I want to remind you about our fantastic Facebook group. You can find the link in the description below. We share tips, photos of finds. It's just a great way to, learn from others. Okay, back to those stunning locations. You mentioned Illinois and Colorado. What are some other hotspots for fluorite?
Well, if we're talking about unique geological formations, we have to mention the Weardale area in County Durham, England. It's known for producing fluorite with these incredible zoning patterns, think concentric bands of different colors within a single crystal. This zoning is a result of changes in the chemical composition of the hydrothermal fluids over time, as the crystals were forming.
Wow, so each band of color is like a time capsule recording a shift in the Earth's chemistry millions of years ago. It's amazing to think about. And these geological differences are why we get such a variety of fluorite, right? I mean, we have the classic cubes, but I know there are other crystal shapes too.
Yeah, you're right. The variety is truly remarkable. And those different crystal shapes or habits are also influenced by the conditions during formation. For example, you mentioned the cubic fluorite, which is probably the most recognizable. Yeah, those cubes are a clear indication of kind of fluorite's underlying crystal structure. But sometimes you get fluorite forming in octahedrons, which are, 8-sided crystals.
Oh, cool.
These are a bit less common, but equally stunning.
Yeah.
And then there's the variety that always makes rockhounds' eyes light up, rainbow fluorite.
Ooh, I've seen pictures that, like, someone swirled together all the colors of the rainbow, like, inside the rock.
Yeah.
How does that happen?
So it's a beautiful example of what we call color zoning, but on a much grander scale than that Weardale fluorite we talked about earlier.
Right.
With rainbow fluorite, you have multiple bands of different colors, often purples, greens, blues, yellows, all within a single specimen.
Oh, wow.
These dramatic color shifts happen when the composition of the hydrothermal fluids fluctuates significantly during the crystal's growth. It's like nature was experimenting with different color palettes all in one go.
I bet those are highly sought after by collectors. And speaking of collectors, I know that fluorite is a relatively soft mineral. Does that make it tricky to care for?
Yeah, that's a great point. So fluorite has a Mohs hardness of 4, which means it can be scratched even by a steel nail. So knowing how to, clean and store it properly is essential if you want to keep your finds looking their best.
Okay, so let's talk cleaning. What's the best way to, like, remove dirt and debris without damaging the fluorite?
I think gentle is the key word here.
Okay.
So a soft brush or some compressed air can remove like the loose dust and dirt. And if you need to wash it, you can use lukewarm water and a mild soap, like a gentle dish soap.
Okay.
And avoid harsh chemicals or abrasive cleaners, as those can damage the surface.
But I'm guessing a good rinse is important to remove any, like, soapy residue.
Absolutely. And when it comes to drying, pat it gently with a soft, lint-free cloth. Air drying can sometimes leave water spots, which can dull the shine of the fluorite.
Good to know. What about polishing? Can we give our fluorite a little extra shine?
Yeah, you can, but again, proceed with caution. Use a soft cloth and a non-abrasive polish specifically designed for delicate minerals. Avoid scrubbing too hard because, again, you don't want to accidentally scratch the surface.
So gentle cleaning, careful drying, minimal polishing. Got it. Any other tips for, like, keeping our fluorite treasures in top shape?
Yeah. So storage is really important. Direct sunlight can actually fade the colors of fluorite over time, so it's best to store your specimens out of direct sunlight. And to prevent scratches, wrap them in a soft cloth or store them in individual compartments with padding.
Okay. Those are some great tips. I'm definitely going to be more mindful of how I store my fluorite collection. It's fascinating how something so visually striking can also be so delicate. It really adds to its, like, allure, I think.
I agree. It's like holding a piece of art created by the earth itself, and it deserves to be treated with respect. Speaking of like appreciating fluorite, have you ever heard about kind of its supposed metaphysical properties?
I have. I've read that some people believe fluorite can enhance focus, clarity, and mental acuity.
Yeah, it's often associated with like promoting concentration and decision making.
Hmm.
Whether or not you subscribe to those beliefs, there's no denying that fluorite has a certain energy about it.
It's captivating, that's for sure. And it's one of the reasons why I think rockhounding is, like, so much more than just collecting rocks. It's about connecting with nature, understanding the Earth's processes, and maybe even tapping into, like, a bit of that ancient energy.
Beautifully said. It's a hobby that can spark curiosity, adventure, and like a sense of wonder.
Totally. And for anyone listening who's feeling that spark, we'd love to have you join our community of rockhounds over on Facebook. You can find the link in the description below. We share tips, photos of finds. It's a great way to learn from others.
It's a really supportive and enthusiastic group.
Yeah, it is. It is. And you never know, maybe you'll discover your own passion for fluorite and uncover a hidden treasure, like, right in your own backyard.
That's the beauty of rockhounding. There's always something new to discover.
Okay. I think we've covered a lot of ground today, from fluorite's practical past to its, like, dazzling colors and the best ways to, care for it. But there's one more thing I wanted to touch on before we wrap up this deep dive. Fluorescence. It's something that we mentioned at the beginning, and I'm, like, dying to know more.
Fluorescence. That's where fluorite really gets to show off its magic. So not all fluorite is fluorescent, but when it is, it's truly spectacular. Imagine shining a UV light on a piece of fluorite and suddenly it starts to glow with like an otherworldly light.
I've seen pictures and videos, but I bet it's even more incredible, like, in person. What causes that glow?
Okay, so it all comes down to the way certain electrons within the fluorite crystal structure interact with UV light. When those electrons absorb the UV light, they get excited and jump to like a higher energy level.
So the electrons are like tiny party goers getting energized by the UV light.
Exactly, but they can't stay at that high energy level forever. As they return to their normal state, they release that extra energy as visible light, and that's what we see as fluorescence.
So it's like the fluorite is absorbing invisible UV light and transforming it into visible light.
Yeah.
That's pretty mind-blowing. What colors does fluorescent fluorite typically glow?
The most common fluorescent colors are blues and purples, but you can also get greens, yellows, and even reds, depending on the specific trace elements present in the fluorite.
It sounds like a whole other level of beauty,
Yeah.
like hidden within these already stunning crystals. And that's another reason why I think rock hounding is so captivating. There's always more to learn, more to discover, and more to appreciate about the natural world.
I couldn't agree more. It's a hobby that keeps you engaged, curious, and connected to the wonders of our planet.
Yeah, it's amazing to think that something as seemingly simple as a rock can hold so much beauty, history, and scientific wonder.
I know, right? And I think that's what makes Fluorite such a fantastic ambassador for, like, the world of minerals.
Yeah.
It's visually stunning, yes, but it also has these, like, hidden depths from its practical uses in industry to its fluorescent properties that spark our imagination.
And for anyone listening who's ready to dive into the world of rock hounding and maybe even start their own fluorite collection, what advice would you give them?
I would say, first and foremost, do your research.
Yeah.
Learn about the geology of your area and where fluorite is typically found. There's some great online resources and books available, and don't be afraid to reach out to local rock hounding clubs or groups for guidance.
Yeah, that's great advice. And I know we've mentioned our Facebook group a couple of times already, but it really is a fantastic resource for connecting with fellow rockhounds, getting tips, and sharing your finds. You can find the link in the description below. We'd love to welcome you to the community.
Absolutely. The rock hounding community is incredibly welcoming and supportive, and everyone is always eager to help newcomers.
And who knows, maybe you'll even discover your own hidden fluorite treasure right in your own backyard.
It's definitely possible. Fluorite is found in many parts of the world, and you never know what you might stumble upon if you keep your eyes open and your curiosity alive.
Well, I think we've covered just about everything there is to know about fluorite, from its formation and stunning colors to its practical uses and even its, mystical allure.
Yeah, it's been a true pleasure exploring the world of this, fascinating mineral with you today.
The pleasure was all mine. And to all our listeners, thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive into the captivating world of fluorite. We hope you learned something new, felt inspired by the beauty of nature, and maybe even sparked a desire to go out and discover your own hidden treasures. Thanks for listening to the Rockhounding Podcast.